Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about The Handmaid's Tale, Season 2, Episode 11. It is called Holly. So, full spoilers for the episode, as always. Actually, when I saw the title of the episode, I mean, it wasn't, like, hard to guess, but I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure I know who Holly is.
Fair enough. I didn't see the title beforehand.
Oh, did you know? Well, I saw Holly, and it felt like, okay, so this is going to end with the birth of the kid, and that'll be the name of the kid, a real name that June gives, or not whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Fred and Serena end up doing. So this episode is June largely on her own, in the house, plotting an escape. She finds a car. She's getting ready. It's very tense in places. There's a scene, of course, with Waterford and Serena, which kind of maybe dispels some of her. Well, it doesn't completely. I mean, he could be lying. He could be playing, but it doesn't seem like he set up Nick necessarily, given his reaction in this episode.
It doesn't seem that way, but again, we don't get any context from him on his own. You know, that's
true.
What he says to Serena, so it could be a lie. It
could be a lie. But he seemed genuine. He seemed to expect Nick to call in.
He seemed it, yeah. So he's either a very good actor or he has nothing to do with this.
Exactly, yeah. Which does lead to some questions as to, okay, so who's behind it then? If it's not him, then, because he was kind of the obvious suspect, he was the obvious answer to that question. So that leads to some new questions, which we'll get to. But this was very June focused. It was very much her on her own. A lot more of the red outfit in the snow, which I approved of last week. Very good visual. And yeah, so I like this episode a lot. I thought this was really, really strong. Particularly the first 2/3 of it, where it was her on her own, slowly figuring out where things were, realizing what she could do, hearing the radio and hearing the broadcast from Canada. That obviously no one's supposed to be listening to, but they beam it out anyway, in case anyone can listen to it.
Yeah.
And all that stuff, I loved all of it. But the only thing I would say about this episode in terms of any sort of negative light is it's not really anything negative about the episode in of itself. It's more just that going forward, I would say that this is the last time we fake the she might escape thing.
Yeah.
Because it's fine in this episode. This one is different enough from the first one, because this one, of course, ends with her making the choice to be recaptured. She makes that choice. And that makes it different enough where I was never like mad at it, or I felt like we were covering the same ground again. It was a completely different scenario than last time. This was her on her own making that choice. But now, we did it at the start of the season, after the first 3 episodes. We've done it here. Next time it has to happen for real.
Yeah, definitely.
Next time it can't be the same thing again, where it teases it and then pulls it away.
Well, we've done both the scenarios now. She fails to escape, and she chooses not to. So
yes, exactly.
That's it.
So that'll be a repetitive problem if we do that again in the future. I don't have a problem with it in this episode though. Partly because, as per usual, it's handled so well, and the tension. I was getting really stressful. She comes out to the car, and then she realizes, oh shit, I have to go back and get some stuff. And she goes back and gets the food. The entire time she was back in that house, I was like, oh god, anyone could show up at any moment. This is terrifying. Get back out of the car. Just go.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't think anything was as tense as the opening, 5-6 minutes, just outside in silence, and then you have the wolf, who
I would question may not even really be there.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
But I would just say the imagery of it and the moment. I think it's probably the strongest part of the episode, honestly, because there's no music at all. No music comes in until she picks up the photo. Not a single thing. It's pure silence up until that point. There's no opening anything, and it works so well. Yeah,
no, it's just her not on her own. And I think for me, when she was coming back, honestly, my favourite moment of the episode, though, I think has to be when the commander and Serena are in the house and they're looking around searching, and it's when she sees the box of ammo, and you don't really get to see close up what it is, but I kind of just made the leap. I was like, is that shotgun ammo? And then she opens the crate and there's a shotgun, and I'm like, she can actually do this, right, if she wants to. And she opens the window slowly as they're fighting downstairs. Serena's livid at them, and they're firing back, and we'll talk about their conversation because that went to some places. But you just have, June up in the window. This because it's a big house, and there's a sort of inner window, and she's looking down at them, and she's pointing the gun, and she can't quite do it. And I feel like the thing with this show is I know there'll be some people who watch and go, oh, why didn't she just do it? She should after everything they've done. And yeah, she would be justifiable. No one would blame her. But that doesn't necessarily mean that she's a killer. That doesn't necessarily mean that she's okay with just doing that. That's arguably what makes her better than the people who do put them on the wall and so on. If she doesn't make that choice, as much as it's frustrating in a movie way where if you're watching Die Hard, you don't want Bruce Willis and John McClane to stop and think maybe I shouldn't kill the bad guys. No.
No, you want the justice.
Yes, we're here for the heads being blown apart, but. And
I really hope that's not what we're here for in this show.
It's not. We're here for morality. We're here for the morality and the right frame of mind winning the day, hopefully, by the time we end all this story. So that moment was great for me. Because everything, again, like the opening, everything was very slow and methodical. She was doing it quietly. And then she has the choice. She's there. And I think that's what makes this episode so powerful, is that not only the ending where she chooses to go back, the theme is that everything's her choice. She makes the choice not to shoot. She makes the choice to fire off the gun to alert anyone and so they can come pick her up. Because obviously the entire time you're like, I mean, this baby could pop at any moment. We know she's had the false labor already. Like we're there. We're at any point this is believable. So I'm kind of waiting for it. And she's having the throughout the episode she keeps reacting. She keeps having the pain. And I was just like, okay, this is building up, but she can't leave, and she hopes she can. And we have that moment with the radio, and you hear the person saying, hope out. Here's a classic tune to make you feel free again, even for only a fleeting moment. And you feel frustrated because she's trying to the door won't, the garage door won't work, so she's trying to just ramming it with the car. That won't work. She's trying digging it out, and then she hears the car, and that's when she really tense, really personal. Obviously some flashbacks. The kid of mirror, what she's going through at that scene at any given time. I thought it was very neat because despite the fact that Hannah's been such a big part of the show, and they've had a lot about her being pregnant, how she ended up with Nick, or how she ended up with Luke rather. They saved the actual birth for this, where they intercut the birth with the birth of the new kid, with the intercut with Janine giving birth, intercutting with the lessons of being a handmaid and how she's doing it on her own. All that worked really well.
It does. My only problem is I wanted to be in the snow. I wanted it outside. I wanted the imagery in the snow.
Do you know what's funny actually? After she bled really severely, and she went back outside to shoot the gun, and there was from the side, it looked like there was a trail on the ground, and I thought when we get to the bird's eye shot, it was going to be a trail of blood, leading out to where she was, and it never was there. And honestly, I mean, this is just a visual cinematic desire here, as I wanted the trail of blood, not because I wanted her to be bleeding that severely, just because it would have been a visual.
No, exactly. It's the same here. I know, giving birth outside in the snow is definitely harder than there's inside.
Hey, she looked really sweaty. Maybe the snow would have helped with that.
Oh, maybe it would have. But just for imagery, that in the snow would have looked better.
Yeah, it looked really good. That said, they did make a lot of use of the fireplace and the almost silhouette, and
I can't actually critique what is there. It is pretty good.
And I think what's symbolic about this is that this entire society of Gilead is we all come together to help people give birth because that's the whole thing's built around the child crisis, but ultimately the handmaids feel alone. So I think there's something terribly symbolic about June ultimately having to go through all of this alone at the end. No help. They don't come and get her till afterwards. We end. We don't get to see the reunion, and we know that obviously June's going to Serena is going to be pissed at June, and Waterford and whatever. And actually, I want to spiral back to their conversation. I think I really want to point out a couple of things here. The main one being is that when they're fighting, the commander blames Serena and says, if you'd been nice to that girl just once, maybe she wouldn't want to she wouldn't hate you and she wouldn't want to escape constantly. Yeah. And then she says, oh, you raped her the other day, and I'm like, Serena, and not that I'm sticking up for Waterford, because Waterford turned around, so that was your idea. I'm like, so how are you innocent in that, Serena? How are you possibly not culpable in that?
You held her down.
It was your idea. You held her down, and also just the gall to think that every previous time wasn't also rape. It just, I don't know, the logic, the delusion, and them trying to justify. It's almost like they're just trying to spin everything into their system to justify whatever they've done. And it was just that scene, them shouting at each other, because obviously at one point he sort of puts her up against the wall, but I was really I kept expecting Waterford to lash out and play the respect your husband card. I was expecting that at some point.
That seems to be behind closed doors only.
Yeah. And they are on their own, but I think what this showed here is because Serena even says, "I gave up everything for you," and it really sounds like everything wasn't just her life. It was like, I gave up every right like any woman had because I wanted a baby. It's almost like she made the choice for everyone. I'd be willing to give up everything we have just so I could get a baby.
Pretty much. Yeah.
That's what it almost sounds like when she's saying it. So yeah, I mean, we said this last week, but these two are unredeemable at this point. We can have
I would assume so.
We can have a fascinating story about them maybe learning that they're unredeemable, and maybe they'll understand what they've done. But I don't think they can be redeemed. I think they're both way past that point ever.
I would agree, but I'm hesitant to say that with certainty because if you'd asked me 2 months ago, I'd have said the same about Serena then, and then we did have a moment of compassion and sympathy.
We did have a moment.
We had we had a couple of episodes of feeling bad for her. So I'm not putting my foot down.
It wasn't clear cut feeling bad for her. It was definitely murky and mixed with a lot.
It was, but
yeah,
it was much more sympathy than I was expecting by a long shot. So,
I mean, I guess the point being is that even someone completely awful, like they can grow enough that you can respect that they understand that even if you can never actually forgive them because what they've done is just so vile and so severe.
Yeah, I think unforgivable is probably more accurate than unredeemable. In the sense that they could eventually change and do things for the better, but they'll never be forgiven for what they did.
I mean, I guess it depends where your line stands on what is classified as redemption, and like in comparison to what they need to be redeemed for. Like even if Serena somehow ends up helping fix the country and puts everything back in place, does that redeem her for like the years that she put everyone else through this? And
yeah, that's fair. Yeah,
I would say it does.
I think a lot of it is. It really depends on just how involved she is, what she's doing, right?
Because I feel like in most cases with redemption, whenever I'm watching a movie or a TV show and we're talking about a character redeeming themselves, usually what they do to redeem themselves is for something bigger than what they did in the first place. Like, okay, I've been an awful person all my life. I've ruined like X number of people's lives just because they've been around me. But in the end, they will do something that helps a lot of people. And
I think for that to happen, I think Serena has to give up something personally. Like to her, in the act of whatever this is, in putting everything right.
Yeah, but this is what I'm getting at, is that this is kind of like, in most cases, the person who can then be redeemed most often hasn't caused this much to this many people.
No, I agree. I agree.
So, yeah, I don't know if redemption's the right word. I think like we could get to a point where she tries to do what she can, and like we respect that she's trying, but ultimately,
yeah, like I said, this show is so layered though. I don't know for certain that it'll not pull it off.
I mean, I hate to just compare things to Hitler because it's such a cheap way of doing things. But I guess what I'll say here is like, imagine Hitler lived, right, and he decided after 45 that what, I've made a bit of a boo boo. I'm going to start trying to like fix what I've done. Could Hitler have ever been redeemed?
No, that's a fair point.
I don't think so. I'm pretty confident the Holocaust kind of writes it off.
No, I'm with you on this. I think the key difference here between Hitler and Serena is she's not the singular face of the regime.
No, she's
not the one driving everything. She might be highly culpable to us as viewers, but
I think they've shown us enough though that she's high up in the list of blame.
To begin with, I agree. Yes, yeah, like in terms of causing it at the start.
I mean, was it her idea to like murder everyone who was gay and murder everyone who like fought against them?
Right, this is it. I don't know how much of this is her. I don't know how much of it is truly her idea and how much of it she's been manipulated. What we've seen, we've had implications of things, right? We've not seen anything outright yet. We know she's awful. Don't be wrong. I'm not disputing that. But I don't know. I don't think I can quite compare her to Hitler just yet.
I'm only comparing it in the context of, can someone who have seen to create this awful society that's putting so much people through what they've went through. I'm not necessarily doing a 1-to-1 comparison.
No, and I think that but what the key difference here is, she is not the driving force behind everything. She may have had a strong influence at the start, but we don't know, how much was her idea, how much she was a scapegoat, and we need, like the idea, we need this to come from a woman so it's more palatable from their point of view. I don't know enough yet.
I don't think she can be redeemed. I think we can have a bittersweet moment of her trying to do something, but I don't think it can ever, especially to the viewers, in the context of this show, to what we've seen from her, I think we're past the point of no return where she cannot possibly be redeemed.
Fair enough.
And Fred as well. I mean, I never thought Fred would be though. Serena, we could see the arc possibly happening where.
Yeah. I don't think Fred was ever in contention.
Yeah, he was never. Yeah, he was never going to happen. It does make me wonder though if we get that with anyone though. If we do get like a proper redemption for someone, maybe someone we've not met yet, maybe for someone who's maybe not as high in the like let's say Eden's responsible for some bad stuff, because of her beliefs, but she's been kind of indoctrinated. Can she be redeemed later when she maybe realizes and maybe gets a better experience behind her and understands what's happening? I mean, she could, like, because it's not her fault that she's been brought up.
Doesn't
in this
know
world.
any better.
Yeah. But yeah, so just to go back around, we had the flashbacks, the idea of like she doesn't think her mother's going to be there for the birth, but then she does actually. She's late. I mean, she has trouble getting there, but she does get there.
Yeah, I will say that the mother coming in here kind of reminded me that they kind of set up stuff with her mother early in the season, and then we haven't really done anything with it.
What specifically did they set up that you're thinking?
No, just we introduced her and how big a part of her, of forming who June was, in the flashbacks in that episode. What was it, like 2 or 3?
Yeah, it was early,
and I thought we were going to get some recurring themes with her mother and and bring this back around, and we just haven't really had anything. I thought we'd get a little bit more of this story.
It's funny actually. I thought the opposite. I thought that was it.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I felt like it made its point, and I wasn't like, what else is there to do? Although I expected to see her maybe occasionally kind of how occasionally we'll do a flashback, and it's we'll bring back in like other stories with Luke or Moira or whatever. I expected more of that eventually, but I wasn't necessarily thinking there's going to be a lot of payoff like we're building up to with her.
Not payoff so much, but more just have her feel more integral in June's life. Like it feels like we got that one moment right in that episode pretty much. I feel like that's it. Where's the rest of that?
We got future seasons, I guess.
Where's the rest of that relationship? And it feels like lacking throughout the season, for me personally, anyway.
I never missed it, I guess is all I can say. And I guess the point is that she was kind of absent, especially in her adult life. We get the implication here that she's never really around that much. She's always off doing, for a cause. So yeah, I never felt that was lacking or anything like that. I kind of feel like that the episode early on made its point with her. And I wasn't sure. Like maybe if we get more young June flashbacks eventually, when she's a kid, I could see there being more of more stuff there.
I think just knowing, how much of an activist she was, and and knowing how she was involved in trying to fight what was going on.
Maybe I could see that becoming a bit more relevant, and maybe getting more flashbacks of that when June's maybe more actively fighting back. Like it can parallel with that as we go. Yeah,
it could be. Like I said, when all that stuff was brought up in that episode, I thought like, okay, this is something we're going to explore.
Because that tied into her being at the Boston Globe. It tied into like her reconsidering what her mother was doing all that time. She hadn't really had time to think about it until then. So no, I can see it popping back up more, but I wasn't necessarily expecting a lot of it throughout the season.
Fair enough.
But hey, so we did have that. I mean, I loved the contrast of like. In the flashback, she's like, no, Mom, I want to go to hospital. I want medication. I want to do this properly. And I was like, no, I want to know how it felt. I never took medication. And Moira was like, what? You crazy woman? Yeah. Especially if this is post Moira having. I don't think it is, because I feel like that was probably closer to Gilead than. Because Hannah's a few years old, so I expect Moira's like surrogacy was later.
A bit later. No, I agree.
Yeah, but. So it's this thing that June is forced into just doing it completely natural, and not even having a person there to help with it, just completely natural birth. Which given how we know that the child rate is really bad in Gilead, it's it makes you feel more like a miracle almost that this birth went through okay, and at least as far as we can tell so far, that the kids survived. And
I have no reason to suspect otherwise.
It's funny actually. But my first thought when she held the baby in her arms. Was it's like, what's she going to use to cut the umbilical cord? She's like just connected to the baby. That was my first thought. I'm like, damn, she's not got any implements close by.
I mean, she's in a house. There's probably some scissors somewhere.
It's probably yeah. She's gonna have to crawl. I mean, obviously not because people show up at the end, but like that was my first thought. Is damn the umbilical cord's where's the scissors? Someone grab the scissors. But yeah, so that and obviously she speaks. She names the kid Holly and talks about her big sister and you'll meet her one day and so on. And so again, she's making the promise. She's going to fight. But this wasn't the grounds to do it. I wonder what the fallout is here, in terms of, obviously Serena's not going to be pissed at her because Serena is pissed at her. In fact, I loved that moment when Serena was realising that she'd taken her robe off and she was looking in the closets.
Yeah.
In the mirror and she's seen the red. And again, the idea of that it was only red on the screen. Everything else was very muted, and just the bright red of the cloak. Visually very well done.
Yeah, that's a thing that's very often throughout the show anyway, because most of all the other colours that are worn, the greens, the blues, the browns, they're all pretty muted anyway and drab.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if this was why they were picked in continuity, but I think a side effect here is that it makes the handmaids much tougher to run away because they're really easy to spot. They stand out.
I think that's the point. I think they're supposed to stand out, not necessarily because to stop them running away, although that might be a nice little side benefit, but more just because they're supposed to be almost the most respected members of the society, in the sense that in the sense
I don't know if respect. I don't know if respect is the right words.
No. Okay, but in the sense that everything depends on them.
Important. I wouldn't say it's respected, but I'd say important.
No, okay, fair enough.
Vital, but at the same time, cattle for which to be controlled and used. Yeah. It's fair. I think you can, the idea of red being blood and the importance of you can do a lot of thematic stuff with the color and why they wear blood, what it represents, and all the rest of it. So. No, this was a really strong episode. It was a really sort of, I loved it. It never cut to. I mean, obviously it cut to the flashbacks that were related to her, but it never cut to someone else, somewhere else. It never cut to Canada. It never cut to what's happening with Nick. We'll find out maybe what happened to him a bit more next episode. Yeah. It was just her.
I will say that the flashbacks kind of proved their worth at the end when it was intercutting.
Sure.
During the birth, I think before they were almost a little distracting because they did almost alleviate the tension a little by cutting out. I know it was just to a flashback, but
no, I get what you're saying there. I kind of felt that as well. Is that when I first cut to a flashback, I went, "Oh, we're doing flashbacks." I was kind of liking how uninterrupted and this, just methodical beat by beat we're going through the house and the car
I get
and all
the
that.
Purpose because otherwise, you want that at the end with the birth, and otherwise it feels just really jarring and random to cut in with that without any context before that in the episode.
Yeah,
but it felt that it did hurt the flow and the pacing just a little bit.
Yeah, it works out fine by the end. I mean, I wonder, do you just do them all in one big dump right before it happens? That probably wouldn't work either.
No, I don't think it would.
Yeah, so I think this is fine. This is probably the best way they could have done it, but yeah.
Yeah.
I guess the best thing would be for previous episodes to have them, but then where do they fit there? They'd feel out of place. So...
It's a real dilemma. It's one of those where they need it in for the story and the context, but I guess it does harm the episode in some ways.
I guess what you do is you just cut them up, you chop them all up really finely, and as she's getting into labour, you have them all you're looking at previously on they'll chop up the scenes so you get the beats really quickly. So it's like a rush of information, and she's thinking about all these things as she's giving birth. Maybe that would have worked a little bit better.
It could have been, yeah.
But I mean, I feel this is a fairly minor quibble in the grand scheme of the episode.
No, it is. It is. But it was something that I did notice when I was watching through it.
Yeah, and obviously the wolf. I'm not convinced the wolf was even really there. It might have just been her in her head. Not that we've ever really done that in this show, but it felt like. I mean, as soon as we saw the wolf, I'm like, that is representing something. That is not just the wolf. It's the way it just
stands and stares, isn't it?
I'm thinking it's a spirit animal, and that's maybe a really obvious thing to say. But the reason why I'm saying that is because it's the way that it's there when she's trying to escape. It's there just before she shoots the gun, and it's almost like it's judging her for doing so. And it goes away, it disappears. You don't see it again once she's fired the gun because she's given up.
Okay.
And I feel like I don't know if we're going to see the wolf again. It may just be contained to this episode, but it wouldn't shock me if there's an Easter egg when she finally does make the choice to escape. If there's a wolf somewhere hidden,
yeah.
I don't
know. It felt more like a threat or a warning to me. It was a standoff. It was a who's going to cave first, and she did by shooting the shotgun. She caved by going, all right, I'm going back. The wolf kind of, well, that's why it leaves. It got its way, right? It won.
No, I wouldn't subscribe to that. I mean, this is just like my interpretation of it, but I think it represents her strength, and I think the wolf, like, I think it, it's almost goading her into being stronger. I don't necessarily think the wolf won by her shooting the gun.
Okay.
If anything, I feel like the wolf lost by her shooting the gun. Does that make sense?
Fair enough. I took, like I said, I took the complete opposite with the, you seeing the wolf like, almost being guiding, right?
I saw the wolf as her strength. I saw the wolf as representing, maybe even her fears as well. But like, I still don't think that the wolf won. I guess is what I'm saying.
I think to me it was more representing Gilead almost, as in there's this standoff of should she take it on and try and get away from it and get past it, or does she just go meekly into the house? In the end, does she try and get past it, or does she shoot the shotgun and be like, okay, I'm going back, and she submits to it almost?
Yeah. Okay. I still like Main better, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, fair enough. Again, I don't think there is a definitive answer.
No, I think folk can chime in and let us know in the comments what you think the wolf represents. I guess I'm going with the more positive spin. Is that the wolf's the good thing, and she's letting the wolf down by giving in.
Yes, and surprise, surprise, I'm the cynic.
Yeah, surprise, surprise. Even though, I mean, she knows she can't survive this. She knows she can't look after the baby out here on her own. She knows she can't go on the run with the baby. There's a lot of reasons. Like, had she not been pregnant, had it even just been like a month ago, a month before she was due, I would criticize her so much for this choice. But she's about to give birth. Like, she has to. It makes sense. She knows she has to, and she has to accept that. And that's It sucks. It sucks. But yeah. So yeah, I will say on the subject of like they can't tease that she might escape again and then not have it happen. I think very similar. I think season 3 has to be more of a different status quo, and it probably will be, given that she's given birth and that she might be going to a new commander's house at the very least, if not something else even more drastically different.
Yeah, but whatever does happen, I feel like we're not ready to lose. Especially Serena right now.
Oh yeah.
Fred as well. There's still stuff to be said, but Serena more so.
I mean, if anything, the immediate future, like we at least might get like a change of she has to leave immediately. Like I don't know what will lead to it, but I can see them somehow getting to a point where no, she's going to be here for the first 6 months or whatever. Yeah.
But there's only 2 episodes left this season, so we'll see where this leaves us before we worry too much about what we think next season's going to be.
I'm not worried so much as I'm just saying I kind of expect them to do the right thing here. I just I don't think next season can be hurt with the Waterfords doing the same kind of thing again. Like I feel like we have to advance on from that, and admittedly, if a baby's around, maybe that does make it a little bit different for a while. But I feel like there has to be more of a shift.
Enough? Yeah.
And then we'll see. Like, not that I'm worried about it feeling repetitive anytime soon. I'm not, but if it's going to be, I can see that's where the faults might start to creep in. But thus far, that's not an issue. And thus far, the direction, I mean, obviously, once again, Elizabeth Moss with her performance here. Obviously, the entire episode is on her back. Like she's doing the entire thing herself.
It's just something we could say every episode, but it's just no point because it's so consistent.
But so much of this was in silence. So much of this was just her facial expressions. Again, go back to that scene with the gun when she's looking down at them. The anger, the emotion, and then the tears when she couldn't do it. Like all of it.
Yeah. On the similar where I was saying how I wish there kind of wasn't those flashbacks.
Mm-hmm.
I feel the same about the inner monologue. I know it was only at the start and end, but I kind of wish it wasn't there.
Which is funny coming from you because you were complaining it was gone for so long.
Yeah, but in this one, like the silence of just being alone, I feel like, well, I get, okay, almost talking to herself gives her something to, lean on, right? It's backing herself up a bit, but just the effect of being completely alone, I think would have worked really well. Yeah,
it was very. Well, there wasn't a lot of it, like you say. It was just at the start. Now, I think the end is fine because the end is after she's given birth and she's given her speech. Maybe the one early on maybe wasn't needed, but
Yeah.
But most of it does play out in silence, and I think that's the episode's strength. Is it is
Definitely.
just this methodical her solving things and trying to like escape, and she's on her own. She's making her own choices. There's no one trying to help her escape. She's just going to try and do it herself in a very expensive looking car.
Yeah.
So no, that commander's going to be pissed though when because it's presumably the front of the car's not going to be in the best condition now. It's been rammed into that door 3 or 4 times.
Yeah. I mean, I doubt it'll be too bad because it's not getting too much of a lead in.
Sure, but the paintwork's going to be scratched.
But it's definitely going to be scuffed.
Yeah.
No denying that.
You ain't going to be happy about that. So hey, that was episode 11 of The Handmaid's Tale. So by all means, let us know what you thought of this one in the comments below. Like and subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on patreon.com/MailFuzzTV if you want to support the channel and keep us going. But that's it. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys, and we'll see you next time. Oh, and have you got any vanilla? I usually say that.